I finally have a screen-accurate Two-Face coin. It only took me 33 years. I have liked the character of Two-Face ever since I first saw him in Batman the Animated Series. Original air date, by the way. I don't exactly know why I like the character so much. It might have something to do with the fact that he and I both really care deeply about things being fair.
It's not about what I want. It's about what's fair!
But whatever the reason, I always found myself wanting his coin. That's the one, that coin right there. The only problem is that coin doesn't really exist. And yeah, online you could find lots of really cool Two-Face coins, but I don't know if you know this about me yet, but I kind of have a thing for replicas. But how do you replicate a cartoon coin? So it's not for lack of trying, because at one point I did create a mock-up of what I thought the coin would have looked like if it really existed. So here's the cartoon coin again, and here's my mock-up. I took that to a custom coin maker and asked if they could make me a coin based on my mock-up. And they said, yeah, sure, at an enormous price. For one coin, I would need something like 100 pre-orders to make that economically feasible. So no replica coin for me. And I do just want to take a pit stop over and talk about Batman Forever. When I was younger, when I learned that Two-Face was going to be in that movie, I got very excited. And, then I saw what he looked like. I saw their take on the character. And there's stuff to like about it. But they wanted to go in a more zany direction. And this version of the character just didn't really resonate with me. Leopard print, really? So if you can find a replica coin of his that is exact screen matched, I probably wouldn't want it. So fast forward to 2008. Like most people who are fans of Batman Begins, I was eagerly awaiting The Dark Knight because I really wanted to see what Christopher Nolan was going to do with the Joker. And for as long as I've had access to the internet, I have kept tabs on superhero movie news. So by 2008, I definitely would have known that Aaron Eckhart was going to be playing Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight. But it wasn't until February 2008 when a blurry image of an action figure leaked online did all of us learn that in the movie, Harvey Dent was going to transition into Two-Face. My excitement found a new ceiling. And that summer, it did not disappoint. I loved everything about the take on this character. I loved how charming he was at the beginning of the movie. I loved how his turn to the dark side came about and was handled. I loved the way that they wove the coin into the mythos of the story without it feeling forced. And speaking of the coin, after his accident, I really loved the look of the coin, what few glimpses that we got of it. Up until then, every version of the Two-Face coin always was kind of clean on both sides, even though scratches denoted the evil side. It was still kind of clean. This one had grit and texture and soot, and it felt like a real-world object. That coin was the first prop that got me interested in replicas. In December 2008, the Noble Collection released a 2-coin set with a display case. So the way they did it was you could have the pristine Harvey Dent pre-accident coin and then the marred up, scarred Two-Face coin. And you could put them both in the display so you could display both faces. It ruins the illusion that that there's only supposed to be one coin, but that don't matter. Scientists do not have a way of measuring the time it took from when I saw that ad to when I placed my order. A few days later, a package arrived. I tore into it like it was Christmas morning. The only thing that could have matched my excitement when I was opening that was the disappointment immediately after. This is what arrived. Now, it wasn't bad enough that they stamped the word copy in big letters on each of the coins. Okay, all right, fine. They saved one side that doesn't have the word copy on it, so I could put it in the display case with that side facing out. Fine. It's not my favorite, but fine. But what really frustrated me was the evil side of the Two-Face coin was literally just a coin spray painted black. Where's the texture? Where's the soot and the grit? And where's the replication in this replica? So I did what I always do every time I get a collectible. I ruined it. I have a crafty girlfriend who loaned me her needle files, and she showed me what rub and buff is. And I spent a couple of days scouring the internet for every reference photo that I could find, a couple of stills from clips of the movie, most of which were too dark to be usable. My photo editing skills were raw. I didn't know how to properly manipulate pixels yet. YouTube was in its infancy. So I was limited with what I could find, but I did find these fan-made replicas that certainly looked authentic enough. They had everything I wanted, had that feel to them. So I got those and I used them as my references. And 8 days after making my original purchase with the Noble collection, I finished my first replica. I mean, it's just okay. It was the first one, but the process was fun. A month later, the Big Bad Toy Store puts up a listing for what they called the Dark Knight Two-Face coin replica. I can't find the original listing, so I can't say with 100% certainty that they called it a one-to-one replica. That's my memory. If they didn't say it, they at least heavily implied that that's what it was. And I can't find the listing, but I still do have the images that they posted. And those images looked exactly like the ones that were perfect replicas that fan made. So I'm at home thinking, number one, kudos to that fan for hitting the nail directly on the head. Second, I said to myself, I'm going to get that coin. So I placed an order, and I was going to have finally my first true replica. And when it arrived, I was ecstatic. So I did what I always do. I ruined it. So now, a bit of context. Back in 2009, I was focused on illustration. I was in my free time trying to illustrate comic books. I had no idea how props were made. I had no idea how replicas were made. I didn't know how to care for them. I didn't know how to store them properly. One of the biggest things that I didn't know was why replicas exist to begin with. And that's for the experience. So I know I keep bringing this up, but it's important. When you get a replica, when you want to buy a replica, when you want to make a replica, try to ask yourself, what is the experience that I am trying to have? Because that coin was made to give the owner the experience that they are holding in their hand the same thing that Aaron Eckhart was holding in his hand on the set of The Dark Knight. But I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was looking for was the experience of I am holding in my hand the thing that Harvey Dent was holding in his hand in Gotham City. Those are two very different experiences. I also didn't understand the difference between how things look in reality versus how they look when they're photographed or videotaped. So while the soot and the grime photographed really well, in person it didn't quite look like authentic soot because it wasn't. So I set out to give myself a little bit more of an authentic experience. First thing I did was I stripped all that off the coin, nice and clean. And the second thing I did was I started putting anything that I can get my hands on to try to recreate that soot. Rub and buff, matte, flat, black paint, ink. Nothing was ever good enough. And what I know now, but I did not know then, was that the reason I kept tinkering with it was because I was falling in love with the process and I didn't want it to end. So I tinkered with that coin for 9 months until I finally said, you know what would make this thing look like it really survived fire? Would be if I set it on fire, for maximum authenticity. I don't remember what I put on it, but I do remember I was outside, very important, I was safe, on concrete. I set it down and I lit it on fire and I waited for it to burn out. And after a few seconds, it popped like a popcorn kernel, which confused me because coins don't really do that. Never mind how I know. I thought I would just go on eBay and find another one and buy it at a ridiculous markup. Nope. The artist who made those perfect replicas, they had long since stopped taking orders. So that's out. So that's that. I really don't know what caused me to start thinking about it again. It might be because I'm getting more involved in the replica making community. But whatever the reason, I had a very interesting day on September 10th, 2025. Early that morning, I started wondering if I was going to try to replicate that coin again, could I get it closer to screen accurate with these new skills and tools and the community that I have access to? I located and reached out to the artist that made those perfect replicas, and it turns out they're a member of the RPF, the Replica Prop Forum. I didn't even know that was a thing in 2008. They replied, super nice, gave me the whole backstory on the coin. So get this, they went to go see The Dark Knight in 2008 in theaters, and they were like us, sitting there going, I would like to have that coin. So they went home and they fabricated the coin. I mean, it's an oversimplification, but that's basically it. No iPad, no iPhone, no still frames. It was still playing in theaters. No nothing. They just went and made a version of the coin from their memory and their impression of what the coin would have looked like. And that's incredible.
Apologies for jumping in. I realized while I was editing the video, I left out a key detail. So it turns out that the person who I'm talking about right now is the very same person who made the coins that the Big Bad Toy Store was selling. Hence why they look so perfect. They made a post about them. It generated interest. Somehow that landed on the radar of the Big Bad Toy Store, who obtained a limited quantity of the coins. And it turns out I did in fact have a coin in my possession the whole time. And I ruined it.
They gave me a little bit of the process on how they did it. I am not about to start making coins. That's not where this story is going. But there was a funny part where they were describing the metal that they chose specifically, that was chosen because they didn't want to have to rely on a foundry to cast the coins. So they chose this metal because it has a very low melting point. And I'm reading that thinking, yes, I was able to figure that one out on my own. Yeah. But this was bittersweet because for 16 years, I've been kicking myself for ruining this beautiful replica that I am unlikely to ever own again. And it turns out it's not an actual screen accurate replica. The artist never said that it was. If anybody said that it was, it would have been the Big Bad Toy Store. But this person has always maintained that that replica was nothing more than their impression of the coin from the films. And truth be told, I really like their impression. Dare I say, I like their impression more than I like the screen used prop. Oh, that's another thing that happened. On the same day, I found out what the screen used prop looked like. So I had to know. By this point, I'm now a professional graphic designer. My ability to lighten images has gotten much, much better. We have 4K. We didn't have 4K. We were celebrating Blu-ray back in the day. YouTube puts 4K clips into YouTube. So I went through and I started grabbing any image that I could find to try to get a good look at what the evil side of the coin looks like. As I'm doing my detective work, the YouTube algorithm figures out what I'm up to, and it starts to suggest on the side videos of people that are showcasing their Two-Face coin collection. This video in particular made my ears perk up.
I searched for a fairly long while to find the correct coin, and then, by chance, I happened to run across, on Etsy, a wonderful replica made by a company that I hadn't really heard of before. Dark Matter Props. The scarred side. Well, that's the winner. That's the real good stuff. This is the scarred side. I compared the scarred side of this coin with the 2011 photographs at San Diego Comic-Con of the screen-used prop, and I was blown away by how identical this coin is to the screen-used prop. It's almost uncanny.
I had never seen what the screen-used coin actually looks like. I didn't know it was on display at San Diego Comic-Con in 2011. I didn't know it was on display anywhere ever. And I didn't know that there was an Etsy store that sells near perfect screen accurate replicas very affordably. So I told you all of that to tell you this. After 33 years, I finally have a screen accurate two-faced coin. And I ruined it. Okay, it was a little bit of an exaggeration to say that I ruined it. This is a close-up of the dark matter props coin. This is the good side. The weathering is really nice. Sometimes you'll see, let me get it real close and focus. There we are. There we go. Come on, buddy. So sometimes you'll see that the coin, the metal, is really nice and bright. And if you look at real coins as they age, they actually stay really bright in movies and stuff, so that you could actually see the figure on the coin. They'll put like a dark wash over it, and Dark Matter Props did a really good job of that. So now we're going to get to the evil side. And one thing is, hang on, before we move over, I want to point kudos to them. This tiny little mark here on the neck sometimes gets missed. They got it. That is actually, if this was a true coin, would be an A and an F sharing space with each other. That's the artist who made the face of Lady Liberty. Anyway, so they got that. Nice. They don't have a copy. Great. And when I flip her over along this orientation, she should be still face up. That's how real currency works. If a lot of the coin makers will make it so you have to flip her in this direction and she'll stay face up. So moment of truth. Here we go. Got it. And she stays face up. Yes. Great job. So great job on the weathering. There's a little bit I got to explain, because this isn't exactly as it arrived to me. It arrived totally black, which is fine. But if you look at the films when Harvey Dent is like seeing it for the first time and he kind of goes like this and shows, you could see the silvery silhouette of her face. I want that in my coin. So I spent all day kind of rubbing and then hitting and rubbing it on like the flat surface and on a towel, not just on like, friction, but just trying to rub away some of the high points to try to get to her silhouette. I'm not done yet, but that's what I was doing. I wanted to kudos to Dark Matter Props for whatever they are using to make this black. It is durable. It wants to stay there. But the critique, if I had one of the few critiques I have, is this thing is glossy. You can see I have very bright lights in here. This thing is, it's a little too glossy for my liking. So I'm going to do like a before and after. I intend to try to put the soot on all over again. And we'll see how it goes. But one thing I am definitely not going to do is set this on fire. Okay, here we are. And I've made all the changes that I wanted to. I didn't change anything about the front at all. I left it exactly the way that it is. I love the front. I love the way that they did it. And here we are on the evil side. That's more what I'm talking about. You can see her silhouette. You can see, we're starting to get dark. Hang on, let's go to, there we are. You can see the spikes of her crown. You can kind of see some of the lettering, like this. The soot is in the recessions. So let me tell you what I did. All I really did was taped up the good side with some green tape and hit it with this. Very, very thin coats. Waited until it was like, overnight. And then I just, so one thing, this is some thick leather. It's got a little bit of squish to it, which is important because some of these rises are very, very tall, and they kind of block getting in there when you're trying to clean this off. So if I put this on something very firm, I would not be able to remove all that much of material. So all I did was put it down and just gently on a paper towel, just kind of keep rubbing around and then checking on it. And I don't want to do too much more, but I got it to a point where that's what she looks like. And that matches a little bit more. So like, depending on the angle that you get it at, you know, you can still see evil Lady Liberty in there. And when Harvey wakes up and he holds the coin kind of like this and then turns it over, and you can kind of see she's in there. Like this gives me more the feeling that I'm holding the prop. Yeah, this looks really good. Does it ring when you flip it? Truth be told, my hearing is not what it once was, so I cannot hear a ring. I was flipping this when it first arrived near my daughter, who's very young. She's got those nice young ears, and she was saying that she can clearly hear it ring every time I flip it. Going even further down this rabbit hole, while I was Google searching images of the two-faced coin, I saw a 3D model that looked exactly like the one that I just purchased. Every tiny little detail, so much so that I reached out to that modeler, and it turns out that they are the very same person who made the 3D model that this coin was made from. So as I said, this gives me the feeling that I actually have a screen-accurate coin replica. It's what I've always wanted. I'm going to put it on my mantle. I'm going to fidget with it, roll it over my knuckles, and when I flip it, I'm going to feel like Harvey did. If you want to feel like Two-Face, go to Dark Matter Props on Etsy. I'm going to put a link to their store in the video description. Go there, get yourself a coin, get yourself one of the many other high-quality prop replicas that they have. The prices are very affordable. And oh, there is just one other thing.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Take care. So real quick, interesting thing. When Harvey is judging Batman and himself and Gordon's son, and he flips the coin for Batman and it lands on Evil's side, they zoom in real quick on his hand right before he shoots. And I'll be damned if that ain't just a coin spray painted black. So the Noble Collection replica was screen accurate after all.